Good morning. Long time no see.
Morning.
How is everyone?
Good. How
I
are
know I haven't seen you guys in a couple weeks. Missed your little faces.
you?
All right. So I'm just letting folks trickle in. Let's see. I would love to just kind of get started sharing some wins and challenges here. So we are, we're getting ready to kind of kick off the operations and productivity module. And so I wanted to just kind of open the floor for a little bit and talk about what's changed for everyone as far as operation needs goes. Wins really drive some of those operation needs, right? And then I also brought Zach from Funky Mello back in today because he is very much hitting that part of the hockey stick where rapid growth is happening. And so I also wanted to bring him in to talk about, his operational challenges and some of the solutions that he's got in place. I know there's a lot of sourcing challenges as well right now. And then in a couple of weeks, Zach and Fiddle is going to do a deeper dive into Operations 101. So that's also part of why I wanted to kind of thread the conversation and kick off this module with Zach as part of the conversation. So yeah, let's just open up the floor really quick. If y'all don't start volunteering, I will start picking on who's gonna go. But yeah, I'd love to hear some wins and challenges. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. Good morning, everybody.
Thank you.
I don't have any wins, but I will share my challenges. My biggest challenge right now is scalability for my production. I'm still hand making all my momos, and there's a little bit of, I'm making the sauce a little bit faster using an immersion blender, but on the machine side, I started digging, just literally Googling dumpling manufacturers or dumpling machines just in the USA. I had purchased a machine back in November, and it took over 2 months to get from China, and it did not work. So I'm at that point of not being able to trust somebody unless I know them, or somebody's referred me to a particular Chinese manufacturer that makes them. Otherwise, I got to be able to drop in a lot of money from a US manufacturer, or somebody that I could actually go and return, or somebody that I can ask questions to. So that's pretty much my big thing right now, is to be able to find a machine that would produce it the way that would meet my specs.
And Bindu, do you mind will you shoot me an email with your specs, and
Yeah.
I'll poke around and see who I can connect you with.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Okay, next.
I'll go next.
Go ahead, Bindu.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Small wins would be, so I've been working on getting all our ingredients to organic, and knowing the suppliers and dealing with the supply chain and trusting what we can bring from India has been quite a bit of challenge. And the small win is basically we're close to getting all ingredients GMO free and all organic. So we're nearly there. So every time I add one to the pile, it feels good. There's a lot of work involved behind that, as most of sourcing your own things. So just that. Yeah.
Awesome. Any operational challenges you want to share?
Yeah, operationally, basically, it's still hard to get product from India. India is literally on the other side of the planet, geographically speaking as well. So it's the longest time on the boats, and it just doesn't help, because some of the spices, they come from in central part of India, and then you have to get them to the port, and from there get it on the boat, and then it has to go through multiple routes to get here. My past experience, I used to bring wine from Europe, which was extremely easy compared to doing this. From Italy to New York, and from New York into anywhere in the US. Wine was super easy. Just operationally, this one is challenging. Time zone does not help. And fortunately for me, I speak multiple different Indian languages, so I can kind of communicate in different parts of India. But it's just all the little things that add up.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. All right, who wants to go next?
Hello. Hey everyone. Brittany from Buttered here. Excuse my voice. I'm recovering from COVID currently, which is interesting, but some wins here. Again, I do beauty products, so we're mainly e-commerce right now. So I recently outsourced the fulfillment of my products, which has been really, really helpful. Extremely helpful, actually. But operationally, I've been having this internal battle of debating whether to find a manufacturer this early in the business, or whether to grow a team in-house that can replicate my process from making my products myself, opposed to having 2, 3, 4 people helping me as we scale. I'm just having that battle as the next step, but yeah, kind of ditto everybody else when it comes to finding that right manufacturer down the line. And thank you, Connie. Thank you so much. I feel a little bit better now.
Brittany, can you share a little bit about what types of, how you're prioritizing, which way you're going to go? What are some of the parameters that you're thinking about, whether you want to manufacture versus in-house?
So basically the integrity of the product, right? Like, I know how it should feel. I know how it should smell for my scented product. Just ensuring that that is 100% is my main concern, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. I have a couple people I'd like to introduce you to so that you can decide if you want to do that. And
Awesome.
I think they might be able to also give you more parameters to think about that might sway you one way or another.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Okay, next.
I can go. So we're actually in the middle of some weird legal stuff with a former co-founder that had left. So honestly, everything's really paused right now, operationally, and just as a company as a whole. Goes much deeper than that, but I think it's been very challenging to kind of be in this place of stagnation and not being able to sign contracts and not being able to move forward with our manufacturers in the spot that we're at. So yeah, I wish I had kind of a more clear-cut operational update, but that's where we are right now.
Do you need resources for that? Feel free to send me an email. I'll see what I can do to help you. I know we have some mutual legal friends.
Yeah, exactly. But I will send you an email with more details.
Okay.
I can go. So are we just doing operation stuff, Katrina?
You can share. Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, I think I think we'll focus there. But if you have other things you want to share, just go ahead and share them.
Okay. I think operationally, so I manufacture overseas as well. I think it's just cost effective. And this is apparel. It's apparel, but also like a medical product. So it's kind of like this weird intersection. We have been DTC e-commerce thus far. I have thoughts of getting into local drugstores actually versus apparel stores, and working on packaging to fit those parameters because it's apparel, but it's going to be next to like pads and tampons in that aisle. So how do we differentiate ourselves? And yeah, so working on that and struggling a little bit, honestly, with the packaging requirements. I've hired a designer, but I'm not sure we're seeing eye to eye. I'm not sure if I'm leading her correctly. Manufacturing wise, I just got my manufacturer to sign a contract to reduce, there's probably a better technical term, but like the amount of defects that we have. I had been hand checking everything. There's like loose threads everywhere. It was ridiculous. And so I got them to sign the contract, but there's a little bit of trepidation on my part to like go ahead with another big round of orders, because there's, I think, an element of trust that I'm not sure, like if I have to throw out 30% or donate, I mean, that's a big number. I guess wins, I guess, unrelated to operations. I had a good investor meeting last week. It was a angel syndicate, and I think it was a yes. They don't lead rounds though, so I thought that was a pretty positive. I ran through the pitch deck and everything, and yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Connie. Okay, y'all. Next, we're going to do this for another 4 or 5 minutes. So go ahead, Trish.
Hi. I've just been working on my website the last few weeks. I had a really nice meeting with my mentor, Mana, and she gave me tons of notes on things that I needed to improve, and I've been working on that a lot. And then also sending out emails with how-tos, and that's been really well received. I might have found an office for farther down the road when I need to leave here. And that's about it. I have a new employee, kind of. I'm opening up Trisha's school for overprivileged children. And his father is paying a salary and he doesn't know it. So that's been fun because I have help, however long it lasts. That's about it.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, next, last one.
Hi,
Hi.
Carmen here. So right now, just operating through e-commerce. I'm also working on the next product on our product line, and I'm just having a little bit of trouble trying to source some like cotton round pads, some thin cotton pads. And I'm also working with an intern for this summer through Student Plus Startups. And so I'm really excited about that and just trying to figure out how I can best manage both their times and be as clear as possible and effective with them. And also just trying to work on my branding and on my current product and making it look more timeless and less trendy.
Awesome.
I had one update as well for my business for Vidalia Naturals. As far as a win goes, we had a pretty good photo shoot for a few of our products. So that was really fun to set up and do. As far as operational challenges, one is just around location of making our products. So like right now I'm making them at home and quickly running out of space, especially to like store all the ingredients and the packaging and everything. So starting to think about options of like either renting kind of lab space or something where I can make there. So any help with that would be welcome. And then also for Connie, I actually used to do packaging engineering. So if you need help with like how to communicate certain package, like in terms of like the thickness of the board or whatever, I can try and help.
Oh, thanks so much. I'll reach out to you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right,
I'll
Zach.
go.
Oh, go ahead, PT.
Okay. Oh, okay. I've been working with my mentor, which I love them. They are very helpful. I have some bullet points that they gave me to work on and for our next meeting. But my one problem I had is finding packaging, the right packaging, and I'm struggling to find. So if anyone know of any not manufacturer, but the packaging bottles, please send them my way, because I'm getting ready. I'm trying to work my way ready for Central Market, and I need to find the right packaging. And in order to have my label designed, I need to know the packaging, nail down the packaging before I can do that. So that's my struggle right now. But other than that, so please.
Thank you, QT. I know that that's been an ongoing need for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If I can go, unless you're trying to finish this.
No, go ahead.
Question.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah, a couple wins and then some other stuff. I got a fellowship through this company called The Wild Gift. It's specific to the outdoor industry. It's kind of similar to Naturally Austin, actually, but again, like very niche to the outdoor industry, which is perfect for my brand. And it culminates in a backpacking trip that's like 3 weeks, which is kind of crazy to think about. But I'm thinking about ways to like fold that into some stuff I will do on social media and some other things. And so like I've never done a trip that long. So we'll see, but that's been good. And then we shipped out the first order to one of our bigger retailers yesterday. It was a little bit of a shit show, but it's out there. So they're getting it. So that's good. And then we'll just deal with the repercussions and probably some chargebacks, but oh well. And then, yeah, I think going forward is just trying to figure out money to pay for some other things. I know, Connie, I might ask you about that angel syndicate because that sounds kind of nice. But yeah, same challenge I guess every entrepreneur has is finding some money. So
yeah. Well, thanks for sharing, y'all. I really appreciate it. I mean, I think this, gives everybody context. I know that sometimes when we are, when you're a founder, and if you're not talking to other founders, everybody looks like they're just crushing it, and you're feeling like maybe you're not crushing it as much, but everyone is also, everyone has their own challenges. And so I just want to make sure that we're just keeping it real, and that this continues to be a place for support for all of you. And so with that in mind, that's also, again, part of why I wanted to bring in Zach and Delisa from the Funky Mello team. They were in the fellowship last year. And I remember before, at the beginning of the year, we had coffee, and I was telling Zach that you guys are getting ready to hit the hockey stick part of the curve, and you're going to wish that you had more time in your life, but when you're starting to hit that part of the curve, there's the operational challenges really increase. And so I wanted Zach to come in and just kind of share what the journey has been like for the last couple of years, how they've tackled these operational challenges. I know that he's very familiar with some of the challenges that you all have just shared. So hopefully this is a place that a founder that might be further along than you, that you can ask for support and hear some solutions. So I am just going to pass the baton on to Zach.
Awesome. Thanks, Katrina, for introducing me. And thank you, everyone, for sharing what's going on with you guys, too. We are definitely with you guys, going through it, all the challenges that you feel. Brittany, we just sent a large order to a retailer, too, and it was a shit show, to say the least. So I'm with you guys on all of that, too. And I definitely understand the pain points going on. So for us, we produce everything in-house. We started off with Rice Krispie treats, we did marshmallows, now we do marshmallow cream. Unfortunately for us, we don't really have a co-packer that we can rely on to do a lot of the mass production. So we've just leaned into the fact that we're always going to be our own co-packer. For my wife and I, we are, I would say, a little bit negative towards co-packing. I don't necessarily like how there's a lot of fees attached with it. To your point about the product not being satisfying for the integrity, there's just a lot of negatives that I didn't particularly like going through that. So I've always felt better just going in-house and doing all that. It's stressful though, because to your point, you have to raise a lot of money for it. You have to figure out employees, which are a struggle too. And so we're going through all those things. I think some of the things that helped us though in the early days were, first off, a lot of late nights, but we wrote everything down. We used Excel spreadsheets to a wazoo, and we recorded everything. I had it in my head that whenever our inventory would get down 60%, I would just reorder at the same rate. And it seemed like we were ordering too much at the time, but quite honestly, I never wanted to run out of things. And we never really had a supply chain issue. I know that all of you guys are very smart individual people on here too, but we're definitely news hounds too. So I am more of a news junkie than I ever have been, just because I want to see the supply chain. So for us, sugar is important. I realize that sugar is going to have a little bit of a downturn coming from India. So we've ordered way more sugar than we ever need to before. And so those are some of the things that have helped us kind of navigate through these trending orders too. One thing, we haven't really gone out to hire anybody yet, but we've talked to a lot of people about the hiring issues going on. So something that we're going to try to do is just really offer people a bit of equity in our company too. And it's going to get creative, and we haven't really thought it all the way through, but that's something that I hope helps retain a lot of employees too, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for more than just a typical 9-to-5 job. And I'm very upfront with people too. We've interviewed a few people in the past too, and I tell them that this is not a startup. So you're going to wear a lot of hats. It's not going to be too easy. And I feel like a lot of people tend to just want to work with us because they like us as people, which I think they like all of you guys too in general. So those are some of our things that we're going through. I would say the biggest challenge that we were facing for a little bit was staying organized with things too, but we are using a service called Fiddle, which has really helped us understand all of our ingredients, how much we're using them, when we need to reorder stuff. It makes things a lot easier for us too. And there's a lot of systems out there. Some are more costly than others, but I think you guys can definitely look into some of those, and I can share them as well with you guys moving forward. But in a nutshell, that's kind of what we're going through. I said a lot of things really quickly, but do you guys have any questions for me?
I'm going to start, Zach, because there's, last year you weren't necessarily in any of the bigger retailers yet. And then you closed one, and then they started coming, right? So
Yeah.
walk us through that, and operationally, what had to change?
Yeah, so I can tell you guys, from Whole Foods, it was our first big retailer, and we actually introduced marshmallows to them. And to be totally transparent, that was not a good product that we gave to them, but that was a year ago. We gave a good relationship and maintained that with them as well. And we could only produce, I would say, goodness, probably 3 or 4 bags. And we thought if we have 2 or 3 cases, that was going to be good for Whole Foods. And it came to not reality. They needed a lot more from us. So really what we tried to figure out is how can we, in a scheme of things, the two of us produce more and not do it so we're not breaking our backs with it too. So we started just to research and talk to so many different entrepreneurs, so many pieces of equipment that we were able to find. And that helped us in general too. We did a fundraising round on Kickstarter, and that got us our continuous mixer, not continuous mixer, I'm sorry, our commercial mixer. And that's where we got the wheels going too. Kickstarter was great because we got a lot of initial support from there, and it helped us get just enough money so we could purchase just enough machines to get just enough order for Whole Foods. And that has kept us afloat from that point.
And then this year, I don't know how much of what's going on that you can talk about. I
can talk about it. I'm pretty open book. Yeah, we're raising funds right now. We're actually in the process of moving our current production facility. We're going to move to a new facility now, and we're raising funds as we speak right now. So we're going through the whole investment round, which it's a job of its own, but it's not terrible. And that will help streamline our process even more and automate our process even more. That's a big thing right now. It is very manual, but we understood about a year ago that we were probably going to be in this position right now to be a very manual company, and we didn't have a co-packer, like I was saying. So we just have committed to doing this, and now we're reaching our point of a year. So as soon as the money rolls in, then we can move on to a more automated production facility in-house.
And how are you thinking about growth for the next year? I mean, it's again hockey stick, right? So I mean, literally you moved into your last space and by the time you moved in, you've already outgrown it.
Yeah.
And that's going to include, your next space, the equipment that you're going to need to really fulfill orders. So like how are you thinking about planning and what do you
Yeah, it just comes from
doing to
experience.
mitigate that?
Yeah, great question. It comes from experience of how fast we've been growing. So it causes us to take pause to think about, okay, if we're growing this quickly and there's no reason to think we're not going to continue to grow this quickly, then that means we need to put more thought into our space. And we actually need to get a bigger space than we're going to be comfortable with before, because we're going to grow into that space. It is a risk, but it's a necessary risk because there's nothing indicating that we're not going to grow into that next space or the next pieces of equipment. Funding is a tricky thing, but we've found creative ways to start to fund different pieces of our operation. So that's been less of a pain point for us as it, I think, traditionally has been. And now it's all about hiring the right team, though, to get in there too. So I think we're really just learning from experience, to be honest with you, Katrina, about where we were before and then how we can avoid that the next time.
Yeah. And Zach, you're talking about getting creative with funding operations. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What kind of favors are you doing on this side?
Oh man, so many. So like Kickstarter is definitely like the way to go for us. We still have like thought about doing another Kickstarter raises. We are transparent with our customers too, and we tell them like, we're trying to raise money for XYZ, and then it seems like they buy a little bit more from us on site at demos because they know that we're trying to raise money for a certain piece of equipment. They know what that means to us too, and they know what that means for them as a customer ultimately, that we're going to be able to produce more cream or more flavors, things like that. So that is a huge thing that we weren't originally doing, but we just got very upfront, honest with people and told them where we're at with it. So I think that's for us as creative, because it's kind of out of our comfort zone to let people know about all those things, but it's kind of necessary at this point.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, because I think sometimes when you're a founder, you don't necessarily want people inside the mess, but I think customers really kind of like the part of the mess.
Oh, they love
So
it.
yeah, Brittany, you look like you were going to ask a question. You came off of mute.
Oh no, I was gonna ask, but I just looked up his Kickstarter profile. I was gonna ask with Kickstarter, but I just Googled it, so never mind.
Yeah, but do you mind dropping that in the chat?
Yeah, I got you. Let me pull it up quick.
Go ahead.
How did you decide how you were going to run the Kickstarter with just like what you're going to offer, and what was kind of things that you didn't necessarily expect once you launched that?
That's a great question too. So I think for us, how we decided is, first off, we had to decide how much money we need for this mixer. And then we needed a little bit more just because shipping and damages and anything. So we always put maybe 10 or 15% more on top of that. As far as what we offered, it just really made sense because we were thinking, if I was this customer, what would I buy? And that's how it made sense to us. And that's how we've honestly looked at a lot of things too that we've developed or try to roll out to customers. It's honestly, if I would buy it, and just coming from a really realistic, honest standpoint, then I feel like a customer would. And then I would test it just with my good friends. And then I would try to test it with some people that weren't so friendly towards us. But that was a good solution to see okay, this was actually going to work really well with your average customer.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I also love how you are starting to offer equity to your employees, because it's just then they're all in, I think that's really smart. Right. But thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
All right, questions, folks?
Are you raising with a note?
Yeah, it's actually a little unique. We're doing convertible note right now. I would highly encourage to try a safe note though, because safe notes are great. They were used in the tech industry, but CPG is starting to use them, and it's good. It's founder friendly more than anything. If you find a savvy investor though, they're probably not going to really go for a safe note. So we have both written up just in case. We're going through an exercise right now, and I don't want to go into much detail about it, but basically we have a person that's unaccredited, and so you can't do a unaccredited convertible note for that person. It's going to put your business in a really weird position. Happy to go into more depth about that, but we're going through that right now.
Questions?
And do you have I assume you have just a firm or maybe a specific lawyer that is driving that with you?
You do. You probably should definitely, I would recommend having a lawyer with that.
Yeah, I have one. I did a different type of deal. It was just yeah, lawyers don't help you. They're not business people. They just can tell you what is legal. Like they can't tell you if this is a good idea.
I mean, well, it depends on the lawyer.
Yeah, maybe my lawyer.
I can think of a couple of lawyers that are better at that. If you want some more options, Brittany.
Yeah, there are a few good ones out there, but I understand where you're coming from, Brittany.
At what point do you have to find out? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Kitty.
At what point do you look for a lawyer? Because right now I haven't even think about that yet. So at what point, or should I even in this early stage? Or
it's a great question. I think for us, we just decided, well, we can't literally understand the contract and there's a lot of questions in there. It's probably time just to go ahead and get a lawyer. Especially when we started dealing with some of these other organizations, like, Whole Foods started sending us a lot of paperwork and some of it started getting a little confusing and we didn't really want to get tripped up on it. So that's when we started really looking for a lawyer. And that's just kind of been our indicators when we can't easily understand it. I just don't want to, go into a trap or a mistake.
Hey, this is Kamara. I had a question. You had mentioned that you had done some research, or at one point you all started to do some research on ways to improve your scale up of like making your products. What were some of the resources that you used to help with that research?
Yeah, so we make marshmallow cream. So I just called a bunch of cream companies and started just talking to them about their production as much as they could give me information. And I found a lot of different pieces of equipment that I had no idea that even existed in the planet too. So it didn't necessarily quite go with our cream, but I was able to piecemeal some information together and then kind of move on from that. So that's kind of how I did that. And then on the other side, I just talked to a lot of other entrepreneurs who have scale up and it seems like they're achieving that at a really good level. And I would ask them on the flip side, how they're managing their systems, their operations, their team. And a lot of that kind of made sense. And that's how I was able to do it.
Zach, when you when you were in Excel spreadsheet land, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us what exactly were you tracking and what kind of reporting were you trying to achieve with that?
Inventory. I was obsessed with our inventory because I figured especially for raw ingredients, if we ran out of raw ingredients, we were going to be in so much trouble. And I never wanted to be in a position where we couldn't produce something because we simply didn't have the ingredients. So I would track that and I would really just get it at levels. And I had it at a zone. Like I said, if we got 60% of it was pretty much still in stock, I wanted to reorder the same amount. And then I would notice if it was going at the rate was being spent even longer, than I would triple the order basically. So those were some of the things that I was trying to track. And then finished product was a big thing for us to start tracking. Fiddle actually helped with that though, because I didn't have a really good system for finished product. It was more just cases that I was looking at.
Yeah. So I think that when you are working with your retailer, what kind of information are you feeding your retailer from your operations?
Oh, everything. I'm very upfront and honest, and I think they appreciate that too. We let them know about where we're at with our raw ingredients, any type of shortages that might come up, anything like that too, because I need them to understand if there is going to be any delay whatsoever, which we never want to have a delay. We never want to have empty shelves because I know that can put us in a really weird position. But the more that they understand about our operation, it seems like the more that they, their orders kind of indicate what we're telling them. So if everything's all good, then the orders keep coming and things keep ramping up. If things aren't so good, they'll slow down a little bit, but it really helps your business because you don't want them to over order and then you're in a really weird position too. And we were kind of initially in that before we started having a really open dialogue about where we're at with stuff.
Yeah, but I think I want to kind of dig into that a little bit because obviously you don't want to disappoint your retailer. You don't want them to, basically not continue to order with you, right? So as far as how did you really establish those relationships? What kind of trust did you build with them? And then how long did that take to build that trust for them to kind of cooperate with you? Because that relationship is really sensitive. Yeah. As well as it can make your business, it can also absolutely break your business. So building trust is so key with that.
Yeah, and that's a great question. It probably honestly took us 6 months until we got to a really good point of communicating regularly. I over communicate with people. I will talk to our buyer every other day. I have some information to tell her every other day. That's probably a little too much for her, I understand, but I like to do it like that with Whole Foods because I feel like that's kind of necessary for the relationship, and that's just kind of how I operate. She understands how I operate too now, and it kind of welcomes the emails, it seems like, and we actually just kind of pile it all up to a phone call because I think the emails are too much. So for me, it took about like 6 months until I could really understand that there's a trust factor going in. And it really was after we started to send out orders to them consistently. People started to buy it at the store, and they started understanding our work ethic and what we're doing behind the scenes for them too. But it could be a little bit quicker in the relationship. And like I said, you don't have to necessarily communicate with people as much as I did. That's just the way that I like to do it. So I do agree with you though. I think it is a delicate relationship, but I think the more that you're honest with them about where you're at with it, because it's not in their best interest to have you not sell in their store, nor is it in their best interest to overbuy for you too, because that doesn't help anybody. So I think just being upfront and being totally honest and transparent with them kind of says a lot, because I don't know if every brand is with them.
I'm going to take a pause there and open it up for questions, because I know that the transparency piece, as founders, you're working with a lot of different stakeholders and kind of, again, pulling the curtain back on your operations. Does anyone have anything to add to what Zach just said? Any strategies there operationally and transparency that you'd like to share with the group?
Well, this is kind of a question that relates to anyone can answer, but just when, let's say there's not necessarily something to ask your buyer or your your manufacturers, but you do want to talk to them on a regular basis, is there a certain thing that can be melded into that conversation just to keep the frequency up? And this for anyone who has kind of advice on that.
I can go for that. Yeah, I mean, I didn't always have something to say to our buyer, but I would try to just meet her up for coffee or something like that too, and really just ask her. We're in 6 Whole Foods right now, and so I would often ask her, what does it take to get more Whole Foods? Like, what are the metrics? What do you have for me? She normally didn't have an answer, but she would always try to think of something. Just finally, she started telling me about what they expect our brand to do so we could get the region. And then, okay, that's great. So you answered that. Now, what does it mean for the nation? Because that's just kind of how my brain works. What does it mean for getting more spots in different parts of the store too? Because we don't want to just be in one part of the store. We have aspirations to go in their food service, part too. So having that conversation with her too. I think you can always find something to say or something to ask them too, and finding a different way to ask the same question is kind of like the nice thing about being in our position too, because you can keep asking it. And I don't think it's too offensive for a buyer too, because I think they kind of eventually start to welcome it because they start to see that you are really eager and that you do want to grow with them too, and they appreciate it. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and for my buyers, especially in some of the intro conversations, I was taking a lot of notes. A lot of them happened over Zoom. But one of them mentioned her daughter's in university and they were going to go drop her off because of XYZ thing and blah, 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 blah. I don't bring that back. I don't start with that the next time I talk to her, but it's oh yeah, by the way, how did that go with your daughter? Let me know, I don't know, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. But I just took notes on these, potentially kind of mundane things that, or they could be interesting. It just depends. Right. But I think people remember, if you remember kind of just some of these softer touch things that are just sort of more human, as opposed to just always
yeah,
the business, because that's to his point earlier about building the trust and the relationship. It's, can you execute, can you communicate about the business, but also do I like working with you? Are you a good person? So
totally.
That's
okay,
so awesome.
thank you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to do a bigger retail conversation. I'm bringing in New Nexus to have that conversation with you all. So they have experts that have worked with all of the major retailers. So I think they can also provide some great insights there.
I have a quick question for Zach. Zach, curious to know, like, who or do you even have competitors in your, like, how's the category? If you can kind of talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah.
Generally, pitching to a retail, sometimes, you have to, if it's a unique product, then you have to educate them about the category. And then even to, generate the kind of sell-through that Whole Foods wants to see. How have you navigated those things, and who is your competitor, and like even to just measure any metrics, those kind of things.
Great question. So we have, I would say, a few competitors. Our true direct competitor is Dandy's, because they're the only vegan marshmallow of existence right now in the US. We are a refrigerated product though, so we compete with things like yogurt next to us, or like whipped cream if it's in there. So those are our, I would say, like secondary competitors. For us, the conversation goes like this though. We are the only plant-based marshmallow cream that's refrigerated that exists right now. And we're the only tasty one that exists, and the only one that's clean really too. And you can use it all these different ways. One thing that I just was talking to a buyer about yesterday was they really like when you can explain how versatile your product is, or how it can be used in different combinations of different things, or with other things too. So like for you with coffee, if you say they can compare with these other things really well, they love that. They love that I compare other things, because what indicates to them is that this customer is not just going to buy this coffee or buy this marshmallow cream. They're going to buy it with these 3 or 4 other things. And that's a huge win for the grocery store, because customers spending more money. So we speak to it like that. Basically, we don't just say that we just sell marshmallow cream. We sell coffee topping. We sell ice cream topping, fruit dip topping. By the way, it also is clean with all these different things, because it's plant-based and all that good stuff too, which is huge for customers, we realize, and huge for your brand. And that's kind of the way that we paint the picture, and it's been successful for us.
Right. And as far as sell-through and those kind of things, how was it like initially when you got in let's say, I don't know how long you've been in Whole Foods, but let's say your first couple of months to then where did you see the trajectory, and like how was the basically the interaction with Whole Foods itself for you?
So Whole Foods has been a great partner. I'm just going to say it. They've been excellent towards us too. I think really what we learned though is that getting on the shelf is one step in the journey, but the harder step in the journey is to sell once you're on the shelf. So what we did is we booked demos, and that's all we did. I mean, we didn't have any downtime. It was like just creating marshmallow or going to demos. What we learned though really quickly was we got a huge customer base, like right off the bat from that. The launch was really good with them, and Whole Foods was impressed off the bat. That's part of the reason that we got the region, was because we did so well with this launch. But it really comes because we did these demos. If we didn't go out there and sample as aggressively as we did, we wouldn't have sold as much. I just know that we wouldn't have. So I think as far as their expectations goes, we exceeded their expectations, because they didn't really expect our brand to do what it did as far as scheduling the demos like it. And that's literally what our buyer told us too, that unlike a lot of other brands that did that, we took the time and kind of sacrificed a lot of our personal time to go out and do that. So I would encourage you, for any major launch, whether it's Central Market, Whole Foods, HEB, whatever it is, book as many demos as you can. And in that first month, 2 months, a quarter, however long you can do it physically, demo, and don't stop doing that. There's some other organizations that can help you as far as the manpower goes in demo. We're looking into that right now too, but it helps your brand, and it will help your launch, I promise.
Got it. Fantastic. Thank you.
Welcome.
A quick question for this group. Who is going to stay D2C e-com? Is everyone thinking about retail at some point, or are there folks here that are only going to do D2C e-com?
I think you have
Just
to
wanted-
kind of, right, Katrina, to that point. I have been part of some other groups discussing different channels, and even just like Amazon becomes its own channel, and there are pros and cons to it. And, just generally, just sticking with retail is not enough, and just sticking with e-com is not enough sometimes. You kind of have to spread it across different channels to continue to grow and get build your brand, because sometimes even investors can point out saying, hey, you're only focused on this, you're missing out a whole another market over there. And sometimes like the challenging product that we have, like such as Zach and myself, it's all cold chain, which really sometimes dictates what we can do. We've figured out, like in the last 15, 16 months, we've figured out how to cold ship the product everywhere. We did have a product that was not traveling well after doing a lot of R&D on it. And so I had to discontinue, and I have like 4,000 labels just sitting there. But not to digress, but it's just some products get limited to just being in certain channels, and then some, it's better for us to kind of encompass the whole, all the channels that are that can be give you the opportunity.
Yeah, I definitely don't disagree. I think it's just, I wanted to make sure that we're in the future, in the next few weeks, that we're going to be bringing in folks that are going to touch all of these things. Zach, why is your hand raised?
I was just going to say, as far as D2C and retailer, there was, during our fellowship last year, there was a representative from Target that came in, and she really said something that impacted Delisa and I. And the message that she said to us was basically, don't look at retail like you're going to just make hand over fist cash in. Because the reality is that you can still do well and you can still make a nice business from it, but relying on just one retailer is kind of scary for your business, because if in the event that something happens with that retailer, you might be on the bad side of that turnaround. So it's good to spread, to your point, spread your business out and to have a little bit of a direct-to-consumer channel and to have some retailer. We are heavy focused with retail right now because it's kind of all we have the flexibility to do right now, but we're definitely going to start to focus on D2C over time too, because we don't want to just rely just on the retailers. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up too. It's a good question.
Yeah, I am going to be bringing Alana back later in the next few weeks, and to be, what she said more specifically is don't. She said she works for Target, and she said don't go to Target. Yeah. Because if you are on the smaller side, and I know even if somebody at Target wants you to come in, she's really cautioning that you don't necessarily say yes out of the gate, because retail can be really brutal. And to Zach's point, with D2C, just because you're in Target does not mean, any of these retailers, it doesn't mean that their job is to sell for you, right? So again, having an omni-channel strategy is really important, because you still need to drive your customers to the store.
Is everyone here, sorry to cut you off, Katrina. I just had a quick question. No, is everyone here Austin based or close to Austin? Okay. So one of the first stores that was really good for us as far as like getting some traction out there and understanding retail was Wheatsville Food Co-op. And I love co-ops. There's like 200 plus co-ops around the nation. So if you want to start small and look at how retail works, look into co-ops, because if you get 200 co-ops, you're going to get paid pretty well. And there's a lot of them out there. They all are in the same network. I would highly encourage going through them first before you go on to like Whole Foods Central Market. And you can still do that. But we learned a lot of experience. We learned about our product really well. We learned about customers really well in that short vacuum before we went to Whole Foods. So I'm always a huge advocate of going to co-ops.
Zach, you are getting ready to do some pretty big rollouts here this coming year.
Yeah.
Operationally, how are you getting ready for that? What processes are you changing specifically?
Yeah, so that comes with Fiddle. We're getting acclimated with that system now, because we definitely need to get used to using that type of network. Also the raising funds too, so we can support the buying of equipment so we can actually make more product. But that's what we're doing right now. And then we're also in the middle of, as you mentioned, growing out of our current lease space and going to the new lease space. So We're managing all those things right now. And I don't know how my wife and I are doing all of it by ourselves, but we're figuring it out, and hiring. So those are the 4 buckets that we're kind of managing at the moment.
How are you finding people? That's a really big challenge for brands right now.
Yeah, so that comes from old colleagues. I have no problem poaching ideas to them. I've told them from the time that I worked with them till now that like I always had a business acumen and I wanted to do this thing. So now it's kind of coming to fruition. And same with Delisa too. So we have gone back to some of our old colleagues and just told them like, it's going to be a little bit less money, but would you consider coming over and making, coming with a cool brand? We make marshmallows, like it's kind of cool. And a lot of them like that. They're interested in that. So it's kind of helped us not have to go a lot of deep searching for people. I'm also a huge LinkedIn advocate. I will add anybody on LinkedIn and everyone on LinkedIn, and then I will find out all the information about you. And then, if we get along, then I'll definitely propose working with us at some point too. So that's been kind of my strategy. It's been working.
You have been doing great on LinkedIn. I have enjoyed your LinkedIn growth, particularly when you did not want to do it last year.
I'm a very shy person, for truth be told. I'm a very shy person. I don't like to, public speaking is not my thing. So this is all very hard for me too, but yeah, including LinkedIn.
And that's when you told me that you don't like public speaking, which is why I've been asking you to do more public speaking.
Yeah.
So don't tell me things if you don't want to grow, okay? That goes for everyone in this room. A couple of things in the chat. So Dwayne, one of the challenges, what is the key to finding credible managers to help guide the company through operations, especially in our absence for sales trips and investor meetings? The job platforms are not working. Challenge 2, building a team. How do you prioritize which positions to hire first, especially with all the moving parts? Zach, why don't you touch on that second one really quick?
Sure, the second one. So for team, we just looked at our weak points for team, and points that, if we need, our weakest point right now is production. We can make a lot of stuff, but it takes us an incredible amount of time to stay in the kitchen where we can't focus on other parts of the business. So we need a production manager. That one was kind of easy for us to understand. A weak point for us is that we spend it's really where we spend a lot of time. We spend a lot of time on social media right now. We sell a lot on social media, but we spend an incredible amount of time trying to make content and all those things like that. So that helped us understand we need a content marketing manager for that role, and then an account manager, because selling is great. I love selling, getting in new doors, but holding those accounts is a process and it's very hard. And that's a weak point because I spend a lot of time actually hand-holding a lot of these accounts that we bring on. So an account manager. So that's kind of how we figured the 3 people that we need to hire right off the bat. Really looking at where we spend so much time and can we offshoot that to somebody else?
Yeah. So one of the questions that I get the most from founders for early stage companies, sometimes folks will start to want to hire people pretty early, right? And it may not necessarily be, the right thing to do. How do you discern when it is the right time to bring on someone versus perhaps whatever the not right time is, right?
So we hired somebody too early last year when we were doing marshmallows, and it was not a good experience for anybody, honestly. And what I learned from that, though, is we didn't really truly know our production process enough to hire somebody there. And that was a huge light bulb moment that we need to take some time to really work on this process enough where I know it in my sleep and I can tell somebody in my sleep. My father often told me, and it's a really annoying saying, but I remember it now, it's not really what you expect, it's what you inspect from people, because it's a completely different mindset too. So now I'm able to comfortably know our process from front to back. I can think about it in my sleep. It's not that hard for somebody else to pick up the pieces when they come in, and I can't teach them so many things, because I think what we recognize and realize as entrepreneurs, we don't have a whole lot of time to teach you everything because we're doing so many different things about the business. So I can't necessarily rely on having to teach somebody so many things, especially a critical part of the business, like making our cream. So that's all those things factored into, like, this is the right time to hire somebody because we're comfortable finally doing it.
Cool, thank you. Last question in the chat, what was your process and how you got into Whole Foods?
So the Whole Foods buyer actually found us from conversations like this. She was in one of the chats that we were in during our SKU MO track, and she just messaged us. She messaged us, like I said, when we had marshmallows. We pitched the idea to them. It took about, from the time that they found us for marshmallows to cream, it probably took us over a year. But if you want to go with the timeline from the cream, I would say 6 months. 6 months from giving them a sample to then her team testing it to then another team testing it. Honestly, it's a very slow, painful process, but take that time to prepare for everything else that you can prepare for, because once they turn the light on and they say it's time to, order, it does not stop. So utilize that time to get ready for them, because it's a good time. It's a good slow time to prepare.
Thank you. I know that one of the challenges is investing in operations versus a salesperson. It's very chicken and egg at this stage, right? But I think Albert said it best. If you don't have your operations in order, your sales success won't mean anything. Because if you can't fulfill, then everything falls flat, right? So I think when you are looking at your hiring priorities, that's definitely something to think about. It'd be great if that person could do both, but if they can wear many hats like you all, but that's probably going to require some giving up some equity.
But nobody likes selling, it doesn't have as much impact as far as coming from you guys, because you guys are the founders. And that comes from when you're talking to your customers and talking to buyers. It really does. Like, no one can tell the stories better than you can. So if you can sell it, even if you're not like, I don't know, a salesman by trade, it's okay, because you are the founder and you can sell it yourself. And to Katrina's point, a production is key. So you can keep up with the demand that you're going to grow from that.
Last question from us. We need share a bit about stocking on the shelf and the initial process and free fills.
So we heard about nightmare stories from free fills. We've fortunately been able to avoid free fills. We are going to go through that though with Sprouts with the free fill order. Now the amount of the free fill, we're still trying to negotiate with them about that, because I'm not really willing to give up so much to them right off the bat. I can't really speak to that too well because it's our first time kind of going through free fill. But as far as stocking on the shelf, they like to keep at least, as far as we do cases in 12. So they like to keep at least 2 cases in the fridge of our product of each flavor, and then 1 case in the back is kind of each store is what they've told me. Now, depending on the holidays, that could get a little crazier, but that's what some of the stores have told me.
Did you have to change your packaging for retail?
Yes, we did. So we did, and it's not really, it's just to make it easier for us, because like I said, we were spending a lot of time doing this, but we had 6 sticker labels that we were putting on our original containers. And that worked when we were doing a few containers, but doing a few hundred sucked and took so much time. So we now have switched to doing cardboard sleeves. And it's not because they needed it, it's just because it makes our life easier. And I'm all about efficiency and making life easier. So you really only need a UPC code, whether that's a barcode, your ingredients on there. If you have the certifications, definitely present them, because that's great for consumers. And really just your name. I mean, you could put a sticker label on it and get away with things, and that's totally fine with retailers.
Awesome. I know we have just a couple of minutes left here. So I just want to close out and say, Zach, thank you so much for your time. I know you've been a great resource to lots of fellows and have welcomed lots of connections and questions. So feel free to connect with Zach on LinkedIn. And then I sent you all the schedule for the next couple of weeks. One thing I wanted to call out is we have a great event with Nielsen next week about data. So a lot of the conversations that we've had here today, I think could really benefit from what they're going to offer in that virtual event next week, which is helping you figure out how to use data to talk to retailers, to talk to your investors. And they're actually going to pull data, and you will have access to free data as well. So I highly recommend that you attend that next week. And because Zach said that he doesn't like public speaking, I'm making him speak at that event. And so we're actually going to Zach's going to be a representative around a brand that needs a lot of the data that you all will also be looking for. So he's going to play that role at that event. And then last, I have a bit of news. So I am leaving Naturally Austin. I'm not going very far, and you all are not going to experience any changes necessarily, but I am becoming the new executive director at the Naturally Network. So the Naturally Austin is actually part of a family of affiliates across the country. The Naturally Network is the national organization that supports all of the affiliates, as well as really kind of represent the natural and better for you consumer products industry. So it's a big win coming out of Austin. And we are also going to be scaling, I need to stop saying we, there's no we. I am also going to be scaling the MO Fellowship nationally. So I don't know exactly when we'll launch that, but my hope is that the affiliate cohorts like Austin's and the national cohorts will be able to collaborate on some of the content, and that you all are also able to network with other founders across the country, as well as access national resources. So that's kind of all of the general goals. And I'm bringing in actually some of the national partners into the Austin conversations, New Nexus being one of them. And so, yeah, so I just wanted to share that news. My contact information for you all will not change until we have hired on a new team to hand off to. But yeah, I just didn't want y'all to be surprised. I'm still very accessible to all of you and always willing to help where I can. So, you know, not going very far, staying here in Austin. That's it. Thank you so much for being here, and see you all next week. We've got a busy next week. And then the 17th is an in-person brew crew. I hope that you all can join us for that, since we haven't had an in-person together in a while. And I'll be bringing in a couple of you know, founders that have grown quite a bit, past 20 million, to connect with you all and share some insights. So anyway, thanks and have a great day, y'all.
Thank you. Congrats.
Thank
Take care,
you.
everyone.
Bye.